Welcome to the Florida Divorce Podcast, your source for the information you need to successfully get through your divorce and into the next exciting chapter of life. Now, here's your host, Attorney Scott Kalish.
Hey everybody, this is Scott Kalish. I am a divorce and family law attorney in South Florida. Today I want to talk to you about alimony, and I wanted to share with you 3 complete defenses to paying alimony. So what I mean by complete defenses is if you prove one of these 3 things, then you will not have to pay any alimony at all to your spouse during the divorce case or after the divorce case. So let's get right into it. So the first complete defense to alimony is your spouse doesn't have a need for it. In an earlier episode, I went through alimony and I talked about what a person has to prove to get any alimony in a case. And one of those items that has to be proven is the receiving person has a need, right? So if you're able to demonstrate that this person does not have a need, right? If you're able to counter with evidence and show a judge or even show the other attorney in negotiations that this person does not have a need for alimony, then you won't have to pay it. It's basically a complete defense. So let me talk to you a little bit about what I mean and maybe give you some examples, right? So basically, you would be proving that this person, right, the person asking for alimony is self-supporting and financially capable of supporting themselves, of working, earning an income, and paying their bills. So there's a couple of situations. What if they're in a job, but they're not making enough to meet their standard bills? Well, that person might be what's called underemployed, which means they could be making more money doing something else. You know, is this person intentionally deciding to flip hamburgers when they're a capable, real estate agent and they're capable of making double or triple the money every month or every year? So that's what I mean by like intentionally underemployed. And how do you really, show that? Well, you can look at someone's track record. What are their skills? What are they trained in? Do they hold a degree? Do they hold any professional licenses? That's essentially what you're looking for. Now, you can also hire what's called a vocational expert, which is, an individual that comes in, they're hired as an expert and they come in and they give an opinion and they evaluate your spouse and they determine whether or not this person could be doing something else and be making more money. So that's the situation where maybe someone's working, but they're not making enough money to cover their bills. If you're able to show the court and you're able to say, hey, this person has these qualifications, these skills, and here are all of these opportunities out there in the community, all of these jobs that they could be doing, that would be, how you would prove that they're underemployed. Now, let's talk about unemployed. What if your spouse just isn't working and isn't making any money? Well, it's the same analysis, right? You look at the track record. What are they trained in? What are they educated in? Do they hold any professional licenses? How long has it been since they've worked? And the same thing with the vocational expert. You can bring a vocational expert in, have your spouse evaluated, and have the expert do an analysis of all of the opportunities, all of the jobs in your area where your spouse can work. And if you prove that this person is intentionally unemployed and has the ability to go out, earn an income, and support themselves, then it's likely that this person doesn't have a need, and you have a decent chance at convincing a judge that you shouldn't pay alimony. So if you're able to demonstrate that this person does not have a need for alimony, right, that's our first complete defense to alimony. Let's move forward and talk about our second complete defense. If you remember in the previous episode, if you listen to it, the second element or thing that has to be proven is that you have an ability to pay your spouse alimony. So if you go out, earn a living, and you're able to pay your bare expenses, your basic bills, and there's really nothing left over at the end of each month, if you're living paycheck to paycheck essentially, then you have a decent argument that you do not have an ability to pay any alimony, even if the person has a need. So that's the second complete defense. Now, there are some, gray areas here. This doesn't mean that if you have, $2,000 a month, you go out and go lease or buy a Porsche. to make it as if you don't have the ability to pay your spouse, then a judge will look at, well, that's, discretionary, bills that you're incurring now, or you're just trying to inflate your bills as a means to get out of paying alimony. And also, judges, there is some law out there that talks about both parties having to downgrade and decrease their lifestyle post-divorce. So there is some law out there that supports that, hey, when the household splits up, you may have to, downgrade your lifestyle, right, in order to free up some money to pay alimony. Now, and also it's on the other side of it too. If someone is expected to pay alimony, the other person is expected to downgrade their lifestyle as well in terms of like what they receive. There's only so much money out there coming into the house. So both spouses are really expected to decrease their standard of living if there's not enough money to go around. Now, that doesn't mean that one person has to be homeless or anything, but that's just an element, right? That's just in the mix in this entire analysis. So just keep that in mind. But a couple of different points I want to make here with this second complete defense and having no ability to pay alimony is that, your gross income figure really doesn't matter. A judge has to take a look at, or has to look at, the net figure. And this doesn't mean net after you pay your bills. This means net after when you receive your paycheck, right? So I'm talking about like taxes, mandatory retirement contributions, those types of things that just come out of your check automatically. You have no control over. You don't have control over how much taxes you pay typically. So that's the number that you want to focus on, is the net figure that's coming into your bank account, or that's on your check every month or every other week, or however, you get paid. I can tell you this, if you're earning an okay living and, you're living modestly and there's just not any more money at the end of the month to go to someone else, right, to support them in terms of alimony, then you have a really good shot at proving that you have no ability to pay alimony. Now, if you're putting away thousands of dollars a month in savings, or spending thousands of dollars a month, on entertainment and things like that, then, your argument that you don't have an ability to pay is really weak. So just keep that in mind. The last and third complete defense to alimony that I'm going to talk about today is when your spouse is in what's called a supportive relationship. Now, let's talk about what a supportive relationship is and what it's not. I'll try to give you some examples so you can make sense of this, but just know that if you're able to prove that your spouse is in a supportive relationship, during the divorce case, then this will be a complete defense to alimony. Now, I can tell you, the first two defenses were way more common. It's not as common that someone is in a supportive relationship with someone else when they are going through a divorce, right? But like in an example of where your spouse and you are separated and you've been separated for a period of time, maybe a year, 2 years, 6 months, something like that. Sometimes they find someone else and they move in with them and they live together almost as a family, during that period of time. And then the divorce comes like 6 months later or a year later or 2 years later. That's sometimes common. Now, alimony, you won't have to pay alimony if you're able to prove that this person is, or the other person is, in a supportive relationship with a third party. So, if your spouse is in a supportive relationship with this third party, just to be clear. So a supportive relationship is basically when two people live as like a family unit. They live together and they, pool their monies together, the resources together, and they look as if they're living like a married life. And there are a variety of factors that a court takes into consideration when deciding whether or not someone's in a supportive relationship. They look at how the bills are getting paid. They look at, whether or not they have joint accounts. They look at a variety of factors, whether or not the two people are supporting each other. So if that's the case, then if the judge finds that someone's in a supportive relationship, then that will be a complete defense to alimony again. Now, again, it's definitely, one of the less common defenses, but it's certainly available. Now, we really see supportive relationships come up when after the case is over and let's say there is an alimony obligation owed, right? The judge or you agree to pay your wife or your husband, alimony for a certain period of time. After the case, people meet other people naturally. That's really when supportive relationships that's when that issue comes up and the paying spouse wants to modify or terminate their alimony obligation. That's when supportive relationships really are way more common. So those, again, are 3 complete defenses to alimony. Again, I'll run through them really fast. If there's no need for alimony, if you don't have an ability to pay alimony, or if a supportive relationship exists, then no alimony will be required. I really appreciate you listening to this podcast. If you like it, if you found it helpful, please give it a 5-star review. If you want a question that you'd like answered, please email me at scott@kjlawfla.com. Again, scott@kjlawfla.com. If you give me permission, I am happy to answer it on the podcast. And that's it. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Florida Divorce Podcast. To learn the 10 secrets behind every successful divorce, visit floridadivorcepodcast.com. If you'd like Scott's help in your divorce case, go to kjlawfla.com.